Greetings and welcome back to the lesson. I'm glad to have you at the Manifested e-learning platform. We continue with the subject governance and compliance audit. Today we are still on the sixth topic. We are going to study in today's lesson materiality at the planning stage. Materiality at the planning stage. And candidates, in the context of governance and compliance audit, the materiality is a fundamental concept at the planning stage, but it differs significantly from its application in the financial audit. And instead of focusing on monetary values to determine materiality, it's about identifying and prioritizing risks and issues that are significant enough to impact an organization's governance, reputation, and ability to meet its strategic objectives. Those of you who have studied the financial audit will recall that the way we apply materiality in a financial audit is not the same as we apply materiality in the governance and compliance audit. I've said it differs significantly from its application in a financial audit. So then, what is materiality in a governance and compliance audit? That's a very important question for us to answer before we get into the key factors for determining materiality at the planning stage while conducting a governance and compliance audit. So I come back to the question. What is materiality in a governance and compliance audit? Now, materiality in a compliance context is the threshold at which an issue of non-compliance or a control weakness or a governance failure is considered important enough to warrant attention or remediation or even reporting to senior management and the board. That is to mean that materiality in this context is the measure of what truly matters to the organization's stakeholders, including regulators, customers, employees, shareholders, name them. And a minor one-off deviation from an internal procedure might be immaterial, but a systematic failure to comply with a key regulation could lead to a massive fine or massive reputational damage, which is highly material. You understand that example, candidates? That a minor one-off deviation from an internal procedure, because an organization is required to adhere to internal policies or procedures and also external laws. So a minor omission to comply with an internal procedure or policy could in a way be immaterial, not critical or not important. But if there is a systematic failure to comply with the key regulation, it could be applying certain regulation or industry-specific regulations or any other form of regulation by the government, that could lead to, that could be highly material. It could lead to reputational damage, which could be highly material, and so on. So that is the meaning of materiality in the context of governance and compliance audit. So in this lesson, having understood the meaning, let's identify the key factors for determining materiality. Key factors for determining for determining materiality. What are the key factors that determine materiality? Now, these key factors, we can categorize them into two: the qualitative factors and quantitative factors. We may have and these are the most important factors in the context of governance and compliance audit. Quantitative factors. These are the most important factors. Now, qualitative factors are often the primary drivers of materiality in a compliance audit. And these are non-monetary elements that can have a significant impact on the organization. One such factor, this is 1A, is legal and regulatory impact. Legal and regulatory impact. This is the most critical factor because a single instance of non-compliance with the law or regulation can be highly material regardless of its financial cost. And the potential for fines, lawsuits, or regulatory sanctions make legal and regulatory impact a priority. It makes it a top priority. Here we are talking about non-compliance with the data breach, data protection laws, environmental violation, a breach of major contract, and so on. So this is the first qualitative factor. The second factor is reputational risk. Reputational risk. Now, here, candidates, any issue that could damage the organization's reputation and public trust is material. And this includes ethical lapses, data privacy failures, or even misrepresentation of product information. So a reputation crisis can lead to loss of customers. It can lead to loss of brand value. It may also lead to loss of market share, which can be far more damaging than a direct financial loss. So reputation risk is also a qualitative factor. The third key factor for determining materiality is strategic impact. You check what will be the strategic impact. Strategic impact. Because a weakness in governance or a weakness in, say, compliance or failure to comply with the standard that could hinder the achievement of a key business objective is also material. So a weakness in governance or a failure to comply with the standard that can hinder the achievement of a key business objective is also material. For example, a weakness in the ICT or IT controls, a weakness in IT security control that prevents the launch of a new digital product can be considered a material issue. So we are looking at the strategic impact, which is also a key factor for determining materiality. Another key factor for determining materiality is the control environment and culture. Control, environment, and culture. Control, environment, and culture. These are issues that indicate a pervasive breakdown in the control environment or just a culture of non-compliance, which could be highly material. If the company has a culture of not complying with laws and regulations, if the company has a culture of not complying with laws and regulations, that can be considered material, right? Because a small error might be immaterial on its own, but if it is part of a pattern that suggests a lack of management oversight or an intentional override of controls, then that can become a material issue. Number 5, we may also consider the impact on stakeholders. Impact on stakeholders. This is also a qualitative factor. Impact on stakeholders. Here you consider the impact of the potential impact on the various stakeholders, including customers, employees, investors, and so on. Another good example here is failure to meet workplace safety standards, or even if it hasn't resulted in an accident, that may still be considered a material risk. A failure to meet workplace safety standards, even if it has not resulted in an accident or an incident, that is considered a material risk. So these are 5 qualitative factors. Let's analyze the quantitative. What are the quantitative factors that determine, that help to determine materiality? Now, while these quantitative factors are less dominant than the financial audits, right? While quantitative factors may be less dominant than in financial audits, because qualitative factors are very dominant in financial audits, while they may be less dominant candidates. The quantitative factors still play a role. Okay, they may be less dominant, but they play a major role. They still play a role because they are often used as threshold to help the focus the audit team's attention. And one such qualitative factor is the potential for fines. The potential for fines and the potential for penalties. Potential for fines and penalties. This means estimating the maximum possible fine for a compliance violation. When determining materiality, the auditors may check the impact of not complying, the financial impact of fines on or penalties of failure to comply with laws or regulations. Estimating the maximum possible fine for compliance violation. And if a regulation like the Data Protection Act allows for a penalty of, say, up to 4% or 5% of annual global turnover, then a potential violation of that rule would be considered highly material. Because, in legislation currently there are always penalties and also fines that are imposed on companies that do not comply. So to determine materiality, the auditors may check if, for instance, the company is not adhering to data protection laws or even the Company Act laws or provisions. There are fines that are indicated that such companies are required to pay. So the fines, if they constitute more than 5% or thereabout, then that may be considered material. Another quantitative factor could be the cost of remediation. Cost of remediation. We may also consider the cost of remediation. This is the cost to fix a non-compliance issue. Because if the auditors have to find, if a company is not complying with certain laws, then that non-compliance may be required to be fixed. And that fixing comes at a cost. And this cost can be a material factor. So if a systematic failure requires a significant, for example, investment in new technology, training or just personnel, then the issue is considered material. So cost of remediation is also a quantitative factor. 3, you may have loss of revenue. Loss of revenue or loss of market share. Here, candidates, the potential for a compliance failure to lead, this is the potential for a compliance failure to lead to a loss of key clients or even decline in the market position, which can be a material consideration. You understand? Yes, so here, under quantitative factors, we have the potential for fines and penalties, number 2, the cost of remediation, number 3, we have the loss of revenue. So that's all, candidates, for our today's lesson on materiality at the planning stage. In this lesson, we defined the meaning of materiality in the context of governance and compliance audits. We've also outlined the key factors for determining materiality. 1 factor is legal and regulatory impact. Number 2, reputational risk. Number 3, strategic impact. Number 4, control, environment and culture. Number 5, impact on stakeholders. Then we have the quantitative factors. 1 is potential for fines and penalties, the cost of remediation, and loss of revenue. So thank you for attending our today's lesson. God bless you. Bye-bye.